there's a BSF office on the border of Pakistan and Gujarat. The commandant there reached out to us and said, hey, I saw your ad on Facebook and I want to decorate our entire office and mess.
Art in general has been looked upon as a area which is for the elites.
Small trader of dry fruits in Srinagar also buying our artworks.
Wow.
To a IT professional in Hyderabad who has a nice 3 BHK there, also buying our artworks. To a small farmhouse in a village in Assam where there is no delivery agent that's actually delivering. We had to arrange for India Post to deliver on that pin code, also buying our artworks. We have an unlimited replacement policy. So let's say you didn't get the artwork there was a defect or damage. We will keep replacing it till the time we get it right. I was managing the team that was responsible for these numbers in Amazon Europe. Returns, replacements, customer abuse, seller abuse, etc. And I've seen the kind of abuse that you see in India is, to be honest, nowhere close as to what you see in Europe.
What were the top 3-4 challenges that you faced while building Travelati?
People in the decor business, or let's say even apparels, will focus on is UGC or influencer marketing, right? What we discovered in the very initial stage is that these things don't work for us.
Hey everyone, so we have with us today the founder of Travelati, Raman. So Raman, this is going to be very casual, right?
Yeah.
All right,
I expect it to be casual.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be. So we try to jump into the conversation directly. And I'm quite sure there is so much that the audience can learn from you in this particular podcast. And we're going to keep it around marketing, entrepreneurship, because most of our viewers are usually marketers and entrepreneurs and people who are in fact looking to start their own business. So that's the audience. So how to actually go about this, right?
Sure.
Okay. So Raman, the first thing I want to go and start with is how did you get the idea of Travelati, and what is the journey you had before Travelati which helped you reach here, right? So if you can give context, that would be a really good start to the conversation.
Sure. So before Travelati, I was into the retail and e-commerce space. I worked with Metro for 4 years. I worked with Amazon for 9+ years in various leadership positions, both in India as well as Europe. Being in the corporate sector and in some of the toughest corporate cultures in the world, it kind of had that impact that I wanted to do something of my own, something that can keep me away from the rat race. And that's how I moved from a cushy corporate job in London to doing my own startup here in my hometown Chandigarh. And what inspired me to do Travelati? Well, I'm an avid traveler. Have been to about 64+ countries by now. Have done various times, a lot of countries that I love. And a part of this was also exploring the culture, exploring food, and exploring art in these countries. If I have to mention something that really inspired or sparked my interest in art, was a visit to Georgetown in Malaysia. Now, Georgetown is an erstwhile British colony, and it's a melting pot of cultures because British colonial architecture, Chinese influences, and then the local Malay culture as well. And in that town, it's a very small town, every wall is an art piece. So there's a mural on every art, there's an art installation on every corner. So within, let's say, a very small space, there are 100+ art walls and installations. And that what inspired me, and I believe that also inspired Jimmy Choo to create the brand that you see, because he's from that place, and he got inspired by all that art and design.
Right. So quite a story. So from Amazon to Travelati, right? So that's how I see the story, and a lot of travel happened between that, which kind of created a path to reach here, right? But having said that, why did you choose the concept of Travelati? It could have been art gallery, right? Any particular brand name, but why specifically Travelati?
So for me, I wanted to do something around travel, but not a travel agencies per se. I wanted to do something around travel, and I wanted to do something which is inspirational in nature. And so the concept that I thought of was travel inspired art or travel inspired design. Initially, if you look at what Travelati was in the first 2 months, we were not only specific to art, we were doing art, we were doing apparel, souvenirs, curios, a lot of things around this. But then we realized that, being in a multi-category role, takes away that specialization kind of a thing of what we wanted to be. We want to be specialists in travel related something. And we picked art because we thought that this is what actually would represent travel in the right way. And souvenirs and caps and, some of the other things might not be the right representation.
Got it. But here is like my first doubt about the market, right? That's what I wanted to discuss as well. So art in general has been looked upon as a area which is for the elites, right? So art in Indian homes is something which had been unseen, let's say, and it is starting even becoming mainstream. I think you can give more inputs on that. So just wanted to know when you started this, right? What you had in mind, right? Who are your customers actually going to be? How big that market is? How do you think about that? How did you think it through?
So we believe that the art is a growing market, and in my personal point of view, we are just 1 to 2 years away from a breakthrough. I'm talking of India specifically right here, and the Indian.
Can you just add context to that when you say breakthrough?
When we see Western countries, okay, Western countries have been more, connected with art because some of the old masters come from there. But in terms of art coming to the common man, the breakthrough happened, let's say, in mid 90s when the you know the discretionary spends or more disposable income came into the pockets of the commoner. That's right now happening in India, especially in metros, tier ones, and even tier twos, where people have disposable income. One, second, they have awareness thanks to social media. They have awareness that they want to, keep their home beautiful. They want to decorate their homes. So these two things combined is actually adding to that whole demand journey that we see. If you see, most of the current art companies in online have cropped up between 2019 and 2021, and we see at least 10x of that happening right now. And that's why I say that one, there is the whole demand piece that's adding up, and then there's also a constant supply piece happening up where new companies are coming. We are seeing more and more independent art galleries or non-government art galleries coming up in each cities. So all that is going to add up, and another year or two is when the market will start maturing, and that's the time when we see a huge growth. Let's say in the past 5 years, if the art market was growing at 15% CAGR, we expect this to go to 25 to 30% from 2026 onwards.
So that's fascinating, and I want to double click on one specific point. So another view of like buying art is that you go to art galleries and buy, right? You pick up artists and you buy. But what Travel Art is doing, or some of your competitors, which I would like you to name them, what they're doing is they're picking up artists, putting their art on their website, and trying to sell there, right? So how is this shift happening? Like, do you think that the online market, which people are like going on websites and buying, is still larger than what is happening in the art gallery? How is that market going on?
So if I have to compare, let's say if I have to have a very clear divide between art galleries and art stores versus folks selling art online, uh, if we talk about value, there's 80% or 85% still lies in the offline space. But as soon as we switch to volume, it's a very different story, because 60% then it falls in the online space. Because what is happening is that while premium art or very fine art is still being sold offline, people are getting that awareness and are able to get beautiful art online, which is still much more affordable to them. And that's what's been triggering the volume business and not the value business.
Got it. So that's again a very interesting point. So think of it like this. My thesis is, if someone is buying a product, so there are certain reasons why they buy them. So one is the utility, right? So for instance, something like a toothpaste, right? So you're going there and you're buying it because it helps you like brush your teeth. Second is you buy it to probably like get a social acceptance. So why would you want to buy one car and not the other, right? So it gives you that kind of social acceptance of why like certain brand.
Yep.
But when you said that whether a customer is getting more value on one place versus the other, what is the value a customer is actually getting when they're buying art? Because it's probably like being portrayed in a living room. It is not something that you can carry around. But what is exactly they getting out of, and what are the motivations why customers are buying art?
Okay, let me split this into uh, two segments. One comes down to the same concept where you said that, why would one buy one car versus the other? Because
Yeah.
eventually it's going to take you from point A to point B. That segment is the people who want to make their home beautiful or presentable to their guests. So it's all about having something which beautifies their home. And then that's a very value conscious customer. And they want to show off their home, but they don't want to spend a lot on it. So it's more about social acceptance rather than anything else. The second segment is people who actually connect with the art. Now that's not a value conscious customer. That's someone who wants quality, who wants good craftsmanship, and that's the kind of customer that's gonna contribute the major value in the segment right now.
So basically, what you're saying is people are buying it for their own needs, like as a self extension of themselves, and probably also to like show it to the people who are visiting their living rooms, right?
Yeah, and then these are two separate segments.
Yes, that comes from that brings me to the second question of this. So I know for a fact, like while working with you, there is another set of customers which is B2B customers, right? So we are talking about some set of customers who are getting this product in their homes, but people are also putting a part in hospitals and in hotels and in cafes, which you also see, right?
Yeah.
How do these people buy? Like, what are their motivations to buy things?
Okay. Again, as with the customers, the home customers here, there are two segments here. One is people who are looking to just fill up their walls, which is most typical, hospitals, cafes, restaurants, and hotels, and even offices now. They just want to fill their walls with art. They are not particularly considered with what art, which artist, what styles, what kinds of craftsmanship. They're not concerned with those things. They just want to fill their spaces, and they're again looking for a very value deal. But then there are customers, and these are either theme-based cafes, or fine dining restaurants, or premium hotels. Yeah, I'm talking of Clarkson and Taj and Westin and all those hotels. They actually have curators in house which go and search for art, search for good
Wow.
art to put up in such hotels or in such cafes and restaurants. So recently we did this project of Clarkson Dehradun, and they had someone on board from the Clarkson group who would recommend which art would do well with their brand and which art would do well in the rooms, which art would do well in the restaurants. And they had someone guiding them throughout the journey and throughout the process of acquiring art.
And any idea about how much these, let's say, hotels and hospitals and cafes are spending, let's say, in one go? Or probably what is the like largest you have seen in terms of coming from one particular group?
Uh, so it depends. So since most of these are in a way franchisee owned, like there's some investor who will be investing in that hotel, and there would be a group associated with it. The investment comes from the investor only, and all the construction and the whole project. So from that perspective, it all depends on the size of the hotel. For example, we have done a 200 room hotel in Himachal also. Obviously, because of the volume, the order value was higher. But when you talk about some of the branded hotels, like for example Clarkson, they would invest in better art, in larger sizes, in much more the density of the artwork. So even if they have 50 rooms, their order value was almost at par with a 200 room hotel in Himachal.
So that's also fascinating. So basically, for them, because I don't see this as an investment from the hotels, which is giving them customers, right? Probably it is making their customers feel good or probably experience, because it's not like something which is installed in the room and people can actually go about and use it. Also, of course, it is installed in the rooms as well in some resorts that I have seen, right?
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to ask is this market is evolving. We all know that, and the Amazons and Flipkarts of the world. There is another brand, Wari, which is I know that they are using art as one particular big category, and it has evolved in last 2 years specifically, right? What are they doing, or even some competitors that you would like to name, what they are doing, and how travel art is different from them? Or do you think it's exactly everyone is trying to do exactly the same thing?
No. So I believe there are two. Again, there are very distinct segments here. One is your Amazon, Flipkart, Vari, Best of Bharat, and a couple of others. What they are doing is they are trying to sell art created by the Western masters, let's say Van Goghs and Henry Matisse and all those people. They are just because they can be licensed without any fee or with a very minimal fee. They're trying to sell all those popular artworks, art prints of all those popular artworks, and so it's basically not. So what they're doing is not creating something unique and exclusive for themselves. They're just trying to play that volume game, for that customer segment, and trying to do a B2B gameplay as well for you know venues which are not
Right.
looking for unique art, which are not looking for anything exclusive. What we at Travelati and what some of our good competitors, let's say at like Nook at You, would be doing is they're looking to create something unique. You know, they're looking to create something exclusive, and also they in that way they're also trying to help artists establish themselves because they are paying their fair share to the artists and not doing unlicensed stuff. And that's a very different way of doing things. Obviously, the cost to the consumer goes up, but then also the uniqueness that the customer can boast about. Let's say if you buy a Van Gogh, at least 1 lakh other homes in your city might have a Van Gogh. But let's say you gonna
Yep.
buy
Yep.
something which is unique, you are looking at only 5, 6 other people in the whole city. So
Yep.
whatever you put up in your home is gonna be very unique and exclusive, and that's what the story that a lot of customers are going for, and that's where we at Travelati or some of the other competitors
Yep.
come in play.
Yep. So one of the things that in our initial discussion you had mentioned, I think a year back, is you were also helping people like identify what kind of art they should buy, because it's an exercise in itself. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like planning an interior design for your own home or flat, right? Because you don't know what to put, and I know for a fact because I have struggled with myself, right? So how do you recommend people going about choosing a specific art, because that also helps you bridge the gap between your, let's say, a customer which is just on the verge of buying versus a converted customer,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So how does that process work?
Okay, so that's technically called art advisory, and I believe we are probably the only advisory in the affordable art segment. In India. Uh, in the Western markets, art advisory is a much common thing, but in India, I haven't seen it anywhere, and that's like probably the gap where Travelati is trying to, make it big. What we do is we get involved with the interior designers and home owners at a very early stage, at where they're already planning their home elevation, room elevations, and that's where we come into play. We recommend what kind of art will go well, what kind of themes that you can go for in different
Right.
rooms, what sizes, what kind of framing, and these things go in hand to hand with the interior decor of that home.
Right.
And that's where we try and bridge that, because once you've already done your decor, obviously there's another process that you can put in play where the customers, based on what decor they already have, can pick art from our website. But
Right.
for consumers who are looking to get into that process much earlier, we can help by creating custom art pieces as well for them, based on their needs of their
Right,
decor and theme.
right. So I see art advisory more like a sales channel, the way you told me, right? Because ultimately, what art advisory is doing is like pushing a customer to buy beyond a certain point, or maybe if customer is looking to, let's say, buy 2 art pieces or 3 art pieces, you can come into the picture and say there is a whole lot collection that you can actually buy. And this is one of the like good examples, because this is something which probably not all businesses needs, but something where customer is kind of struggling to actually identify what they should buy. Art advisor is coming and fixing it for them, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
that's a very good and smart move. But that brings me to another question. I'm sure this is something you must not have figured out on the first day, right? That you have to give art advisory. There must have been like other marketing challenges. So the first thing I want to ask when I'm talking about now businesses, what were the like top 3, 4 challenges that you faced while building Travelati, whether on the marketing side or on the product side?
So I guess the first challenge that since we are in that luxury art or premium art market, customers want experience. Customers don't want to simply click and buy online. And to give an experience while not having a physical entity was difficult. And hence we had to compensate for that in terms of the art advisory piece, or let's say the customer care service that we give, or giving them experiences through mock-ups. So the customers would send us pictures of their room, and we will put up the art pieces that they have shortlisted, and help them select those artworks. So we have done all those things. It's a lot of effort, and ultimately, let's say if you give that service to 20 customers, only 7 or 8 would eventually buy. It's a much higher cost, but then we were willing to go that extra mile to compensate for that lack of offline visibility till yet.
So anything apart from that? So this is more like the customers not able to figure out their way through the, let's say,
Yes.
the whole product. But let's say I'm also asking more from the point of what kind of content to actually create, right? And what kind of, let's say, ads to actually do. So do you have any specific?
Okay, so generally, when you talk of ads, the thing that most people in the decor business, or let's say even apparels, will focus on is UGC or influencer marketing, right? What we discovered in the very initial stage is that these things don't work for us. And it was very surprising because most of our competitors were doing the same. Were investing a lot in getting influencers on board, and but eventually, the kind of customers that we have are educated customers, and they could see through that these influencers are being paid by the brand to do something, and that kind of took the trust away from the brand, which should be the opposite. The intent is opposite, right? Using an
Right,
influencer is getting
right.
trust, but here in this case, it was doing the opposite. So what we eventually figured out is just simple, videos of finished artworks, being packaged, or finished artworks being displayed, is
Right.
what actually built that trust with the customer. That hey, okay, while they are showing a good mock-ups on the website, they also have the same. So whatever is being seen on the website is also actually being shipped out. So that connection we could make using simple product shots, and that's where probably things worked for us.
So basically, what you're saying is, instead of trying to like sell the product, you just simply displayed the product,
Yeah.
right? Like if there is an art, just show it as it is, probably in a like say mock-up format where you can see it in context, and it's like really working good for you.
Yeah, and the other thing, and this was from a paid marketing perspective, but what worked from an organic marketing perspective was stories. So while people see art as it is, a lot of them are also interested in what the story behind the art is. So we started putting stories behind the art, because like me and my team, put together, we have been to 150 plus countries, and every artwork that the team would make will have some story, some experience, something behind it.
Could you
Most
share
of
one
them.
example, like just to add context, one particular art
Okay,
and the story behind
so
it?
so let's say there is an artwork which showcases a very small cafe in Italy. While it'll just look like any other cafe, but that's where I probably had my best tiramisu, in that cafe.
Okay.
So then that cafe for me is like a memory. And then there's a story behind it, because I just simply walked into that cafe. I was, in a random village in Italy, and I just walked into that cafe, and just out of the blue, they offered, hey, would you like to taste our tiramisu? I was just having a coffee. They wanted me to taste the tiramisu. I had. It was the best. I ended up ordering 2 portions for myself, and gobbled all of it. But that's a memory, and then there's a story behind that, and there's for me there is a emotion involved when I create that artwork for the consumer, and eventually I would want the consumer to also connect with that artwork in their own form.
Right, right, right. So when we are like posting a reel of this, I'll ensure that we are displaying that cafe. Right.
Sure.
All right, great. So moving on, the other thing I wanted to discuss is what are the things, let's say specifically on the positive side, that you have learned, which were unconventional. So for instance, which you thought would not work, but it has like turned out to be really good for you. Are there certain kind of learnings on that particular front?
Oh, so I guess it's mostly on the other side. So from my corporate experience, or from my e-commerce experience, like very few professionals in India have been a part of the e-commerce journey since the start. For me, I am probably one of the very few in India, and whatever I had learned as a part of the e-commerce industry, I had to kind of unlearn before, unlearn when I started Travel RT, because some marketing strategies that work at that scale actually do not work for a
Right,
startup, or actually do
right,
not work at the scale that we are right now.
right.
So it's not a simply copy paste that you can do with from bigger companies to smaller companies. It's a very different world, and each segment and each the size of the player as well as the segment they are in influences a lot in terms of what marketing strategy would work for them versus what some of the others might doing. So for example, if I have to give a very small tip to the viewers, it would be that please do not copy paste. Form your own marketing strategy.
Right,
Experiment, find what works for you and follow that.
right, right, right.
Copy pasting what works for others is not the right way to go.
No, that's a very good point, and actually, that's something we keep on saying in our team as well. Sometimes your experience is probably a baggage that you want to get rid of, right? Not in every case, but at least in some parts. And even in marketing, it's more so because the things are changing like every 6 months. So I remember this story where one of the e-commerce marketplaces we were working with, so they onboarded another consultant who was CMO at a like big public company. He came into the picture and he said, we are spending way too less on traffic campaigns. There is something called conversion campaigns in Meta. And they said we should be spending at least like 1 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees just in traffic campaigns. We did that. We burnt like almost close to 5 to 10 lakhs in the next 5 days, and we came back to the same thing that we were doing. Because what he had done at that large scale is probably not going to work at the smaller
Yeah.
one. So I relate to the point, and I think that's one of the best learnings I also have while working with the other teams. But that brings me to the other side of that question, right? So there are certainly things which you had done at the let's say the brands that you worked with, specifically Amazon and Metro, right? Which you feel are helping you out here, right? Those particular experience, whether it is on the shipping side or how to build processes. Could you like give some pointers?
So I believe the one of the core values that have really helped me in shaping up the Travel RT experience was the customer centricity focus at Amazon. Now, Amazon tends to be the most customer centric company on earth, and I kind of in love with that whole concept. So while the business model is very different, and we cannot uh, give the same kind of services that Amazon would give to the consumer, but we try to compensate it in any way we can. For example, we have an unlimited replacement policy. So let's say you didn't get the artwork the right, there was a defect or damage. We will keep replacing it till the time we get it right. And they are customers. Well, it was an unfortunate experience for them, but from a very customer centric point, we did 6 replacements even to some
Oh
extent
my God.
to get the thing right, because there was some breakage and something, because it's eventually logistics is a very different ball game altogether when it comes to large
Right.
artworks. So you have to make sure that you have to package it nicely, and in Diwali rush things go haywire, so we had to do 6 replacements, but we are still happy that the consumer eventually liked the sixth one, and
The sixth one, wow.
yeah.
But that basically means some customers may also be taking advantage of such policies, right? I mean, with Amazon, we have heard the stories in the market. Could you share some experiences where you
Yeah.
had the like, I would rather call it the worst experience where customers are kind of taking advantage of it?
So just to talk about that, in fact, I was the one managing these numbers. So I was managing the team that was responsible for these numbers in
Got
Amazon
it.
Europe.
Okay.
Returns, replacements, customer abuse, seller abuse, etc. And I've seen the kind of abuse that you see in India is, to be honest, nowhere close as to what you see in Europe in terms of percentage. You'll be surprised with that.
Really?
Yeah, and because in Europe there's another piece called which adds to the numbers is theft. Now theft happening in transit theft. Uh, Half the time you don't even know if it's the customer, it's the delivery agent, or who actually, or if it's the seller himself who packaged something else. But all the numbers eventually add up, and you have those big loss items. So in Europe, it's a different story. But here in India, we did see some of the customers trying to get replacements, even though there was not much defect or damage. And we eventually knew that they would have gifted it out to their friends, the extra pieces that they would have got. But we kind of gave that benefit of doubt to the consumer, and eventually stuck with our customer centricity focus that we have.
Right. So one thing that you mentioned is the customer centricity of Amazon you are bringing to Travelati, and it is helping you out as you mentioned, right? I'm sure customer must have been happy, right? But I wanted to know learn a few more things. So Amazon is also like a very large horizontal marketplace, right? You get everything, but here it's a very niche market, right? One product. Even Amazon's own like collection of art, which you already mentioned, has those generic arts, Van Gogh, which you can probably find in every home, right? But here there's a like very different variety of arts. Now here comes the next question: how do you actually go about picking this art piece? And let me give you the context to this question. So Amazon probably knows which art is going to sell, what is the demand. They have this like models to actually predict things. There is a like large process which are set up. Now when you're starting the business, your set of or let's say the catalog of the arts that you're picking up, they also have to be like very meticulous, and it has to come from like certain background. How do you decide this art I should pick up or whether I shouldn't pick this art? And I'm sure there are other examples where you probably have picked a lot of art and some of art are not selling, right?
Yeah.
Like what is the process behind it?
So initially we went, okay, whatever we could get. This was the initial 6 months where we picked every art collection every good art collection that we could get our hands on. But eventually we realized that if you try and clutter the website with a lot of products, it's not gonna, sell. The customer's gonna have very difficult time in finding the right artworks. So we started a
The
curation
curse of
process.
choices, right?
Yeah, the curse of choices. So we started a process called of curation, where we curate artworks which are gonna go to the website. Then we started curating the whole collections. So we will define the collection on what collection we would want to do. So let's say one of the latest collections that we have launched is called Fleurs de la Terre, and it's around floral artwork. So we defined that this is the collection. We defined the number of artworks that we would do in the collection. We'll invite 6 to 7 artists to participate in that collection. And out of, let's say, the 150 to 200 artworks that will be created by these artists, we will then curate and pick up what 50 to 60 would, make or would be relevant to the consumer that we have. So we set up this whole curation process after 6 months of, trial and error. And it's very curious. And then going back to that Amazon piece, Amazon has that flywheel concept that Jeff Bezos created, that more products would mean better customer experience. That's not true for our segment, right?
Wow.
Because more products means more customer confusion for us. So hence we have to go through that curation process. And even today with 4,000 plus artworks versus, let's say, lakhs and lakhs on Amazon, customer finds it very difficult to search what they are looking for on Travelati. And we are in the process of now trimming down collections. And let's say we launched a collection of 100 artworks 2 years ago. We are now trimming it to 50 because we are just removing 50 which we believe the customer is not able to connect with.
Right. That's a very good input. And actually, we also see this with specifically with brands which have large number of SKUs. Very hard. Like customers spending more time on the website, but the conversion is not there.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a pattern that we are also seeing. But having said that, what do you like? Is it contributing to the loss of the business, the arts that you acquired, because you are certainly paying a cost to acquire those art? What are you doing with it? Like, is just discarding them completely right now?
So initially, what we used to do, the model that we had with the artists was we used to do commission artworks. So we'll pay them upfront for the commission. Once they have the artwork ready, we'll kind of buy it outright.
Right.
Now we are doing a commission model, but the share of the artist gets paid only when the art sells.
Got it.
So let's say we will launch a 60-piece art collection next month. all those 60 pieces will be made for Travelati, and the artists will get paid once they sell. In case they don't sell, we will release the artworks back to the artists after a certain gestation period. And at that point, the artist is free to either sell that artwork to on any other platform or to some other competitors. But initially, they will have to be with us for a certain period of time so that we can test and see if these artworks are selling or not.
Got it. And the other thing that I think I missed and wanted to discuss is who are, even in India, your set of customers, they must be like from across the geography of India, right? From, I'm sure, from Jammu to maybe till Kerala, Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu, right? Who are these people who are actually buying art? What is their traits? Like, what do they do? Right? Could you guys shed some light on that?
Oh, so with art, it's a huge gamut of customers, right? I mean, if I have to give you like extremes for that, I am seeing a small trader of dry fruits in Srinagar also buying our artworks.
Wow.
To a IT professional in Hyderabad who has a nice 3 BHK there, also buying our artworks. To a small farmhouse in a village in Assam, where there is no delivery agent that's actually delivering. We had to arrange for India Post to deliver on that pin code, also buying our artworks. So it's a huge variety of gamut of customers. I mean, it's a very difficult, at least with the data that we have till now, to actually put a tab, okay, this is the right customer that we have. Because the variety that we see is huge. And surprisingly, we see that a lot of bigger orders are not coming from tier 1 towns or metros. We were initially expecting that, all the high ticket art pieces or the, multiple items per order will be from Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad. That's not happening.
Wow.
People in these cities are buying 1 to 2 artworks, whereas people who are, well off but are placed in, let's say, tier 2, tier 3, or even, I'm going to go even deeper into rural
Could you name
India.
some cities?
Dibrugarh.
Okay, wow.
And then Kota is a decent market. Goa is a very big market, and then Goa, I'm not seeing Panjim, I'm seeing like really small. Maybe people have villas or I don't know, but Goa is a big market for us. Then Nagpur. Nagpur is an upcoming market. Then there's a place called Bhilwara in Rajasthan.
Yeah.
Very small, but then
Very small.
a very significant market for us. I don't know why. And then there are like a huge list of small towns, in states where I wasn't even expecting any sales from. Like say in Odisha, there's a very small town, and I'm getting at least 2 orders per month from there, and each order is at least 25 to 30,000 rupees. Whereas if you try and find it on a map, you won't be able to.
In Odisha, right?
In Odisha.
Wow.
So that way the data sometimes surprises us, You will find demand at places where you won't even expect them to there to be. And yeah, and in some ways, like digital marketing has that, way of finding people, way of reaching out to those, potential customers, irrespective of where they are located.
Right.
If I have to cite an example here, there's a BSF office on the border of Pakistan and Gujarat. The commandant there reached out to us and say, hey, I saw your ad on Facebook and I want to decorate our entire office and mess. So they bought like 25 to 30 pieces from us. And obviously it was a much more complex because you have to sell to the government. So
Yeah.
there's a whole process to it. But we went through that process, 2 months process to sell those 25 pieces.
BSF.
To BSF. And then their whole office has Travelati.
Travel
Artworks.
artists serving those who serve us, right? Like that. But this is just very fascinating, and this brings me to like other point. Sometimes when we start a business, we think that we know who the customer is, and I'm sure Travelati has been in business for almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
And you're still like figuring out who the customer is, and this is what I even sometimes tell my clients: you don't go with micro targeting all the time, because trying to know who your customer is itself is a journey. Like you cannot like from very first day be sure that this is my customer. And I've had examples like that with me as well. Like customers have come from the most unlikely places, right? most unlikely traits that you would not find in let's say in your boardroom meeting rooms, right?
Yeah.
That's a very good input. Moving forward, I want to discuss a little bit more about the future, right? So art market in India we know is growing. We are moving from, let's say, a trend where people were buying art mostly from art galleries, from certain big artists, but now it's kind of democratizing, so to say. But I'm sure the market is large in outside India, right?
Yeah.
What are your plans for there?
So we already have a small business in Europe, which is around doing exhibitions and gallery shows. But again, it's very different from what we do here in India. What we are planning is to expand to Europe and North America. The same D2C website concept that we have in India. Uh, Along coupled with art advisory, because we believe that while in India people still do not understand art advisory, that way. In Western markets, art advisory is a thing, and we want to bring the art advisory game in a much bigger form to our European markets or to our North American markets than we have in India.
Right.
So for that, we are trying to set up a team in London, which will be based out of London and which can, then based on that time zone, serve the European and North American markets.
And how you like going to manage the shipping part of it? Because let's say even art is there, how you're like shipping to rest of the Europe, the standard ones that happens in India, or like is it going to be any different?
So we're obviously going to curate different collections for that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a different website altogether for the European, for all the Western markets. And this includes UAE, Kuwait, and Saudi as well, because that's a very big market for art. And these markets would need a slightly more matured artworks. For example, we have some, illustrations or some of the more fun type of art, if I have to, for the lack of better words, that would not work for our Western markets. And hence we want to bring in more abstract styles, more modern art forms, and more neoclassical styles to the Western markets.
Right. So I think we are just in the twilight of the discussion. So I loved all of these pointers. But before we end this, I want you to, like, all the marketers and entrepreneurs who are listening to this, what is your suggestion to them? Any particular advice that you would like to give them before the end of the discussion?
So for anybody who's looking to start a business, and specifically an art business, but if I just have to, keep at it, that anybody who's looking to start their journey as a business owner, perseverance and patience. These are the two key concepts that anyone would have to be conscious of, because one, you need to have a lot of perseverance in order to navigate the whole startup journey. It's not going to be easy. People believe that, hey, okay, I'll do this for 1 year and 1 year it will grow to XYZ. It doesn't happen. Just to get the product right, get the service right, get a lot of things right, it takes 6 months to 1 year just to get things right. And that's where your actual growth or actual trajectory would start from it. And that requires both perseverance as well as patience. And the third piece, if I have to, is mental health, because this is a very upcoming concept among entrepreneurs, that mental health is a key thing. And because you have the the financial burden of leaving a job and starting a startup which is not going to pay for so many years, you have to kind of get into that failure stage every single day and come out of it. Requires a very strong mental attitude to come out of all this. So that's the third thing that I would advise, that you need to be conscious of these three things before you actually think of starting a business.
It's great. It's great. So I think I relate with all of the three things that you said. I think I've been there and done that, so I understand where you're coming from. So I think this was all. How was your experience of doing this particular podcast?
Good. I'll be off the way.
No, was just one more final thing I would like to add.
Sure.
Can you just look in the camera and tell your experience honestly about this and ask people to subscribe?
Oh, yes, of course. So it was great. Siddharth was a great host. And while podcasts tend to be a lot more formal in nature, this was very casual. We talked about a lot of good topics, and I believe as Siddharth gets on to having more founders, more entrepreneurs on his podcast. There's a lot coming up, and you should really subscribe right now.
I think this was good, better than I'd expected. But let's do it again sometime.
Sure.
And that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.